So my name is Rhys Perry. I'm 20 years deep as a software guy. I've been doing the last 10 years as architecture, the last 5 or 7 years as an enterprise architect, putting together large projects for Fortune 50, Fortune 500 companies. And January 18th, 2018, I quit my job, which was not easy. And since that time, I've been dedicated full-time into crypto. I had no plan. I didn't have a job offer. I didn't have anything. And I just jumped feet first and ended up working with these guys, these lunatics. So the other thing is I want to mention is that other symbol there is something called Relate ID. I was a co-writer, a co-author on the white paper for that. That's a sovereign identity platform. That's the sovereign identity platform and attestation network with this sort of economic principle of how we distribute wealth equally amongst the planet. It's pretty advanced stuff. Let's say it's a non-profit, so it's real hard to get funding for that stuff, but it's the core of everything that I bring to any project. So what is this? What do I talk about? And what it is CIAN, the CIAN network. And the CIAN network is the Sovereign Identity Attestation Network. And what that basically boils down to is you own your data, all of it, full stop. That's it. Like, that's the simplicity of this network. In conjunction with that, in a decentralized mechanic, allowing through protocols, attestations on data in order to prove and do business in a trustless environment. That's kind of what it means. So I did want to kind of highlight a bit about the now. I looked really long and hard for this one. I did not. But I like the rusted silo approach, so I thought that was kind of interesting. But really what I want to say here is my goal is not to burn down the building. My goal is to build a foundation next door. So the reason we got here with all this data stuff and why people have like hoarded it now and created evil empires, quote unquote, from other people is because of a need that we all had. We needed to store our data somewhere. I mean, they provided us a service. It just turned out the technology wasn't there to do what we can do today. And inevitably it turned from the good of humanity, the people doing this for a good cause, and then inevitably finding the money and rolling with the money and then doing nefarious stuff with our objects. So things like Googles and Facebooks of the world, I don't think are removed from a sovereign identity network. I think they would benefit from a sovereign identity network. And hopefully we'll see those industries join us. So the thing is, before we kind of get into everything, I think it's important to understand the protocol of the system that I'm talking about. And it really boils down to 3 basic, super easy facts. Before the complexity, before all the sub-protocols and everything, there's 3 things that make sovereign identity in the attestation network or CIAN possible. The first is you own your data. That's number 1. Number 2 is you choose who you trust. But that comes with the consequence of them trusting you. So it's based off a model of real life. You may trust me, I may not trust you. You may not trust me and I can trust you, but we still have a relationship. But that vector is always from me to you or from you to me. Versus like I'm a friend on Facebook where we're equally participating in this. So that's number 2. And the third one is decentralized. Everything decentralized, data decentralized. I don't want to own your data. I don't want to be the only place where your data is stored. What I want to create is a network of data repositories that for the user is seamless and integrates, it should be trivial for a user. You shouldn't care where that data is. You should just know that it's secure and it's yours. The how is really, this has already begun. We're seeing protocols already. We see like the W3C standard, and I can't remember the exact number about attestation networks. It's based on the good work that Sovereign provided with their white paper. Very technical, but actually how we can manage attestations across networks and how we can manage data across networks. We're seeing open source tooling from Civic come out. We see Uport come out. We see Sovereign dropping things with Hyperledger Indy. Love it, like it, or hate it. And using the Indy project for that kind of thing, which is very interesting for businesses. We see the government of BC starting to use this stuff. We were talking about Estonia using this stuff. So where we are now in the how of this, the underlying protocols are there. And now it's just as developers and as new crypto exchanges to start integrating this into our platform at the core protocol level and becoming like, that's the base and the backbone. And I didn't say it, but it's, if you don't have the data, if you don't own your data, it's over. Like AI is coming, robotics is coming, dystopian futures, Black Mirror stuff. Okay, fine. But if we look at the very basis, if you own your data, does that have to be the future? Like I propose no. I propose it could be much different. I think a free-flowing economic thing, everybody benefits, everybody wins. But let's get away from the Black Mirror and let's go to, I don't know, whatever the happy Disney movie is. Use cases. So I wanted to just kind of get down and go back up. And without going into the sort of nerdy details about this, and just to provide some food for thought about how this relates to our lives and to the industry and the commerce industry. Healthcare, which is, I'm starting to tell a personal story here. I have somebody in my family and they're very sick and they have to go doctor to doctor and hospital to hospital. And every time they go, they have to talk to a new doctor and answer the same questions every single time. That data doesn't go with them. That data stays in that silo and stays in that silo, and those silos don't communicate because they have political and financial objectives against each other. So the ability to walk into a doctor's office, sit down, them ask for an attestation or ability to see your data, and you being able to provide that to them there, them doing their assessment, them adding data to your data, giving it back to you, leaving, shutting them down. They no longer have access to that data, but they have access to the information at the time they need it. The advantages of this are massive, not only from a personal privacy. I mean, you go on travel, you get sick, you're in a different community, you get sick, you're knocked out unconscious, and things can be worked around that. And also the financial ramifications. It costs a ton for HIPAA. It's insane. It's honeypots and it's money. So changing the industry would benefit the consumer because we'd be paying less for that. Basic math. Safety. So a story, I think, and this was Dave again because we spent the weekend together in our lunacy, is giving an example that's kind of like, maybe not, it's an example. So when you're young, which I'm not, and you go to buy wine or liquor, they ask for your government identity. That identity has your name on it, it has your address on it, it has your phone number on it. That's giving someone a lot of information about you when all they need to know is if I'm 19 years or 18 years of age. You know, and maybe that's not so bad for a lot of us in the room, but as a young woman, giving that stuff away, that's not cool. We don't think about it, but it's not cool. Right? So in sharp contrast, using attestation networks and trust providers, the seller of that alcohol would just simply be able to ask the question through the network if this person in front of them is able to buy liquor if they're 18 years or older, and the attestation through zero knowledge proof comes back yes or no. There's no information, they don't know your birth date, they don't know how old you are, they just know that you can buy alcohol. They don't know your address, they don't know your phone number, they don't know anything about you. All they know is they can sell you alcohol. That transaction gets put on the blockchain. They're covered, you're covered. Easy peasy. Sharing, obviously, data mashups, right? So if I'm owning my data, it's free for me to share with you. If I'm an AI company that's doing research on heart, medicine, anything like that, and I feel like I want to participate in that, why can't I share my data with those people? Maybe it's an ad network and they want to buy my data, you know? Cool, like it's my data. I should be able to decide who I share that with and how I share that. Applications no longer own the data, but they can have access to your data if you provide it to them. So they would be able to use the data collected from other applications into their applications and start creating bigger mashups. I mean, just chuck something, a web page up on IPFS, use some UPort technology, and boom, we've got access to all the data. Pretty awesome. Finally, I want to give a use case that wasn't people related, but just to show the power of what we're talking about, is a house has an identity. Like it does. It's whatever, the government of Montreal or the people in Montreal hoard that stuff. But wouldn't it be, what about my like heating bills, and what about the attestations that I did this work on my house, or these renovations got done, or that I paid all my taxes or whatever? That should be stored in the attestation of the house. Me as the house owner, well, I have that information at my fingertips. When I go public to market, I might choose to push some of that information out so people can see, hey, he did buy new windows. Hey, his bill did go down. When I sell that house, the person that bought it, the data goes with them. I no longer have access to it, but I own that data, and I can choose who and how and when and for how long I share that data. The final one in the use case is industry and how that can be transformative. I think some of us, maybe a little deeper in the protocols, know about supply chain management. You see a lot of fraud in the fishing industry, which is not something you would expect, but does occur. So the ability to track our wares throughout the industry, but on top of that, think about an industry as having its own data room. It's a sovereign identity. An enterprise, an organization is a sovereign unit. So by them being able to have their data stored, encrypted on the chain, of course they're not paying all that setup fees and all the high-level securities and all that stuff that they need to do. They're just on the path of doing business. But they can also allow access in for like auditing, and they would allow access potentially to make sure that their taxes are being paid and their accountancies and kind of the dribble dry stuff that entrepreneurs don't want to do. and do that in an automated fashion in a secure way. Nobody can get any data that you don't want to give them, and so you might just be able to manage your business and your whole like supply chain management through these bots and these AIs inside of your data room that you allow inside of your data room. So I'll tell you what we're working on right now and what's going to be coming out real fast, and then kind of give a quick projection into where we are and maybe even get some sleep at some point in this whole process. We're going to be coming out with a wallet very soon on Mac. That's coming. Sylvain and his team have done a great job of doing that. That download will allow you to create your public-private key pairs, and then through the wallet, you'd actually be able to buy VTX through some of our payment gateway providers. So we're going to be partnering with ZixyPay. We're partnering with Blocktopus. Those do KYC for us. And in the case of ZixyPay, they'll have their own native platform. You can do your transfer of funds to us. We'll convert that to VTX. The Blocktopus is a KYC only, but we'll be using native currencies on the chain and chain listeners to find transactions and then be able to attest your account with a VTX as well. So that's what we're working on for November 5th. And that'll be all open source when it's done, because there's keys and silly things developers leave around, but it's going to be open source by the 5th, let's say. So anybody who wants to go to an ICO in the future would be able to use all this technology for free, which is I'm pretty happy about. I think fast follower after that is to like make sure the system doesn't break. That's what we'll be doing for a little while. And then Sylvain, myself, and the rest of the team, I think after a brief break somewhere, we've been going pretty hard since a long time. And after that, we're going to attack the VDEX. And we plan on having, these guys that write these like nice marketing things say we're going to have it out by the first quarter. And I think that that's probably a doable achievement to have something out there on the first quarter that people can start playing with. So that's the quick and dirty. But there's also a ton of stuff coming with partnerships, partnership arrangements. Some of the Pythagoras people, we're talking to somebody who's building a brand new blockchain. So there's a lot of exciting things happening. I think Cointelegraph is going to pick us up. They're going to do a whole bunch of stuff for us as well. So big things, exciting. I want to thank everybody here. I'm going to give a shout out to my man Dave here because he really did a lot of work with me on this early on. And a big join us. I'm looking for Python guys right now. I'm looking for Kubernetes guys right now. So if you know those technologies, Go or anything like that, please see me after. I'll get you busy if you want right away. And hit us up at info@volentixlabs.com. Thank you. My name is Rhys Perry. I'm an architect with the Volentix Project. My background is about 20 years in IT. Started as a developer, worked my way up, done about 10 years of architecture now, and for the last 5-7 years primarily focused on enterprise architecture, so full end-to-end developer capabilities for enterprises, DevOps, UX, development, QA, operations, that stuff. As you're going to see, like my number one thing is sovereign identity. So that's something I've been working on with some friends of mine for a while, and I think that's the big thing for me. I think it's a core protocol of the next blockchain. It has to be. It's great to have all this cool stuff, but if you don't own your data, then malicious, nefarious intent will ensue. So I think the reason I joined Volentix is because not burning it down, but building it up. You know, as far as like, we're not here to start a fire. We're here to build a foundation for the rest of the people to build on top of, and anybody that wants to join us can come and join us. It's simple. You know, Amazon and AWS own 55% of the cloud market today, of a huge industry, and I don't think that's a good trend. I think that we have the technology now that anybody should be able to open up their data centers and allow for fair payment of fair services. So with that in mind, that first trickle of the cloud architecture I see becoming something that I call the bazaar. And the bazaar is like a marketplace of commerce, tools for entrepreneurs that can start their business quickly and effectively, securely, confidently, and in compliance with the law. Quickly, right? And that's the bazaar that I see opening up and emerging of commerce between data center operators, developers, entrepreneurs, service people, basically a whole holistic 360 ecosystem that supports not only the traditional large enterprise, but really makes room for growth within the entrepreneurial class as well. I'm excited for people to understand what we're doing. I think it opens up new avenues of economics. It opens up new entrepreneurial aspects. It's going to allow people to jump on the blockchain a lot quicker with their products, rather than going through all the, the kumbobbling that is the legalese and all that stuff. I think the power of Volentix is what everybody else is going to bring, and that's what I'm most excited about. I'm really excited to see like what people do with it. When they understand it, like what are they going to do with this thing? We'll become less important, so that's good. I'm an architect by trade. I'm more geeky than I am like financially motivated by any of this stuff. I love the technology and stuff, so any centralization, in my opinion, is a problem. Any and all. I mean, I'm a data sovereignty guy. I don't believe anybody should have my data. I don't think anything should be siloed. There's no golden nuggets or honeypots or anything. Like in my world, decentralization is king. It's a core protocol.